Hey everybody, welcome to Adobe Live. I'm Flynn Tracy and I'm excited to be joined today once more by Jeff Chen. How are you, Jeff?
Hey guys, hey Flynn, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. I'm really good. This is our first stream we've done, I think, since working from home that wasn't at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So bit, bit cruisier for us.
Yeah, I'm awake this time.
Yeah, me too. And hey everyone in chat. Hey Lee, Cheeky, Oscar's in the house. Lily,
Hey guys.
Yasunari, that's awesome. Great to see you again. And D, great to see you again. Thanks for sticking around from the previous stream with Ramez. That was amazing. So we had a great start to the day. We're in for a treat today. I've got to say, when I first sort of saw what we were going to do today, I was like, what is this? This is crazy. And then it gets so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give anything away, I promise. But it's just super cool what you have in store for us today. Sarah's here as well. And Festus, there you are. You've emerged from hibernation. We missed you in the last stream. But yeah, it's great to see you all here. We're here for 90 minutes today, slightly smaller, slightly shorter stream. And because of that, we're not going to do like a Q&A break or anything. We're going to get stuck into it when I shut up in a second and get to the good stuff. But just before I do, Jeff, what have you been up to since we saw you last?
Pretty much same old. I've been doing more freelance work these days. Work for us hasn't really changed in our industry. People are
Right.
playing more games actually, so it's been pretty busy.
Yeah.
I've also been streaming on Behance these days, so
Yeah.
that's something that's pretty new. You guys can check it out. Actually, like the thing in the backdrop, that eagle-looking creature is something I did recently on a stream,
Mm.
and yeah, I think some of the techniques I got from that is what we're going to talk about today as well. So yeah, if you want to keep up to date with like what I do and the latest stuff that I use for my illustration, you can follow those streams over there as well.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just going to drop a quick link
Hmm.
to that in chat, everyone. So check that out. Because if you want more Jeff, and you do, this is the place. This is where it's
A
at.
little bit more Jeff every day might be happy.
More Jeff every day. And there's like
Well, actually, only on weekends.
there's five videos up there, so it's great. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you enjoy yourself today, then yeah, definitely check it out. I'm always blown away by your artwork and your process and everything, and have a great time chatting to you. So yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, should we get stuck into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Yeah,
All right.
we
Okay.
and just a heads up, okay. Couple of disclaimers. I might remove. I'll get rid of the timer up here, but yeah, just completely forgotten what I was going to say. All right, you take it away. I was
You
very
got this, Flynn.
surprised when I saw this. I was like, is this an episode of MasterChef? We're going to watch Jeff Chen, Master Jeff. We're going to watch Jeff teach us how to cook or something. And I was just like, what is going on? This must be the wrong file. But yeah, you take it away.
Yeah, I think we'll keep it on this frame for a bit, and I'll talk
Okay.
about my
Okay.
thought process here.
Cool.
So yeah, you can see I have some dirty cutlery, not cutlery, like kitchenware. But I had a creature in mind already that I want to do. It's you'll see what it is in the end. It's something that is going to be red, and I want to show off something really cool, which is something called the what's it called? It's the pattern brush. So instead of creating a palette, I thought I'd borrow stuff from real life, and I noticed this kitchenware had like very vibrant red. I really want to use, so I took a picture of it. You can see like you'll see later, like my little hands are there, like taking a little snap.
There you are. Yeah.
And I used that as my pattern for my for the painting. And yeah, we can start playing the video now,
All right.
and you'll see how we create that. So you pretty much just need one single image, and then you go to edit, I believe. Yep. And then you create a pattern and you just give it a name, and that's it. As easy as that. And then you have a brush now that or any brush, actually you can pick any brush you want to use and pick the pattern up top. And I'm kind of showing you, like, if you have that impressionist unticked, then it just overlays that image down. But if you press impressionist, then you're sort of painting with whatever brush you chose, and it uses the palette that you have from the photo. And you can do this for anything. You can like take the eagle painting I have and create a palette out of that. Or like if you want to create some trees, you take pictures of trees and the leaves, and it takes a palette of that as well. So it's a very powerful tool to use, and a great way to sort of start off a painting.
Yeah. Oh, it's super cool. And just letting you know as well. So Jeff has pre-recorded this for us, so we're playing it over the top. So this is something that he did yesterday or last night, maybe for us. Just because we're not super confident of the internet connection that we get, but we want to go
Australia.
ahead. So yes, Australian internet. So it doesn't always work out, but we really want to bring this Jeff quality content. So yeah, that's our solution. That's what we've done. So you can ask questions as we go, rather than we're doing our kind of Q&A in the middle as well, taking a break. We'll just plow on through.
Yeah. One of the other tools I've been using is this mixer brush. It's hard to use, I'd say. It's a little bit hard to control, but it gives you a nice texture and a real sort of traditional painterly feel. And you'll see me sort of integrate that in the actual character or the creature later. But I'm sort of like trying to get like the atmosphere at the moment of my creature. I also have some references I might want to drop in chat. So
cool.
Let me drop that in here. So I have like an artist that I was referring to for the style I was going for. His name is Juho, I believe.
So like referencing a particular person's like style.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like how I like to learn. I think that's a great way for people to improve as well. You can refer to someone else's artwork and create your own thing out of it. So you have like sort of a safe guide for what you're aiming for, but you're also still creating something original. It's definitely better than like a direct copy or like tracing, of course. This is probably the best way I found to learn from styles that you like.
Cool.
Did that link? I hope that link.
Is this the artstation.com link in chat?
Oh yeah, I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. So I have that. I also have some other references. I have, since I'm doing a creature, it's important to refer to stuff from real life. So this was the other image. I just dropped it in chat as well.
Cool.
So I'll be using that and a combination of.
So I'm just going to jump over. I've just brought it up myself, and I'm just going to show just for those watching on YouTube. So because when chat disappears, those links don't exist. So here is the reference link that you sent through. So if anyone wants to check that out for all our YouTube friends, right there.
Beautiful creatures here. Yeah.
So you can check that out. So yeah, I mean, like, look at this amazing like texture and color that's coming through like straight away.
Yeah.
Like even when it's just the flat.
So that's from that pattern.
Cool.
And I'm not really worried about what it's looking like right now. It's more about the silhouette that I'm trying to capture. And that tiger reference I shared just then is that silhouette I want to use, and that pose and that aggression, the expression I want to capture. So yeah, as long as that's seen in the silhouette, then I'm happy, and it's got the right palette.
And do you know like what this creature is going to be at this stage? Is that like based on the reference that you sent through previously, like the second one?
Yeah, I wanted to do some sort of predator creature. In my mind, it'll be something like a dragon, but not really. And I think mixing it with like a tiger would be really cool. So that was like the goal I had from the beginning. And when you start to like combine techniques together, so using that pattern brush and then starting to mold like the shape of everything with your regular brushes, that's when you start to get more control, but like you do have like that new technique introduced still.
Yeah, cool. I'm just going to bring this up.
Yeah, here's that mixer brush.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to bring
Yep.
up the that image as well, so people get
Yeah.
an idea, and you can start already seeing it. It's already starting to come through. So that's what Jeff shared in chat for everyone on the tubes. There we go. Back to it. No more interruptions from me.
Yeah, reference is very, very important. But yeah, this mixer brush, you can see it's like the way it's mixing colors is really interesting, and I've been enjoying this tool quite a lot these days. It feels more traditional looking. I don't know. I don't actually do traditional painting, so I don't know if it feels traditional, but it definitely has that look, which is what I'm looking for.
And what brush are you using? We always end up talking about your brushes quite a lot on your streams. But yeah, what brush are you using here?
So it's the mixer brush plus sort of like, I think they call it like a chalk brush or like a brick brush,
right?
Because it's shaped like a brick. Any other type of like square brush would work as well. It doesn't really have anything too special in terms of texture. Just the shape is what's useful.
Yeah, other people sort of mentioning the effects. So it's like, yeah, cool brush pattern from the kettle. Festus said. Yosunari was saying, yeah, it's like a cool effect. Such a great starting point for a palette. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the main point of these new tools I've been using. And then from here, I'm pretty much just thinking about lighting. So starting to build up form from just a silhouette. And I'm still referring to the palette that I had. So anyway, that's a lighter value. I'm taking that and putting it in the right places. It's sort of like rearranging that pattern I had before and making sense of it.
Yasunari has a great question. Before starting, do you have an idea of what you're going to do or the inspiration that comes while working? Probably covered a lot of that. Like I think with the reference, like the reference is a big part of it. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add to, like, you know, the idea or anything?
Yeah, I think I do. Like for this piece, I did spend like the day before thinking about it and trying to think how I could incorporate the tools I want to use for this illustration. So I did sort of plan that, and also did plan what the topic would be. The eagle before was something that I wanted to do again. So I knew I wanted to do something with this sort of similar pose, some similar feeling, but a different creature. And but there are times like when I'm doing a speed paint on stream or something, and I just sort of let my brush strokes or whatever I've placed on the canvas inspire me, and the idea sort of evolves from that.
Yeah, and we just saw you like massively extend the like snout out, like quite a bit, like quite a lot. Like it's changed quite a lot. Do you do that a lot?
I do that a lot. Yeah, I think as you can see, I'm painting on only 2 layers, and that the creature right now is on its own layer, just 1 layer. So I think the advantage of that is like building up your confidence as a painter to not be afraid to make gigantic changes when it's necessary. And I felt like my creature needed a longer snout to look more like a dragon. So I just made that big jump. Doesn't really make a difference. You can fill up the gaps pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, in chat. Wow, and to say this, it's part of a teapot texture. Yeah.
This is a teapot creature.
This is really cool because this is something we could all do from home, like depending on where you are. Like here in Sydney and Melbourne and some other places, restrictions are lifting a little bit, but you know, we're still more or less confined to home. So this is something that you guys could do in chat yourself. You can walk around and try to have a look at what objects you might have that you could turn into a pattern and use as a brush. Do the same thing.
Yeah, be inspired by anything, I think. Even if it's just the color or like the shape of something, you should definitely take that and make it something else. In that last part for the horn, I actually wanted it to be red, but the pattern brush didn't let me do it. I don't know why. It was like taking the blue part of my photo, but I just sort of I ran with it. It looked good in the end, so I
Yeah.
took it. And a lot of times there are these sort of accidents that happen that end up working out. So don't be too, I think, closed off to new ideas. I think if something else sort of pops up, just be like, oh, I'll try it out. You have another untitled one.
Yeah. So yeah, you've got chat open. Yeah. So in our last stream with Ramez, he gave anxiety to every designer, I think, in chat, because I don't think he saved. Did he end up saving it in the end, guys? I'm not sure. But yeah, everyone was noticing the untitled and the style at the top. Like, I don't think he saved his work. Certainly by halfway, he hadn't saved his work. And yeah, they're checking yours out now as well.
I'm very guilty of this when I'm streaming or recording. So yeah, buckle up for some anxiety this time as well.
Got another 70 minutes of anxiety, guys. I'm the opposite. I'm one of those, command save, control save constantly, to the point where I was editing. I've said this on stream before, but I was editing some audio, and I was just streaming it, and I was saving all the time. But every time I saved, my whole screen flashed in the stream, but not on my screen. And I don't know why. Like, it's almost my computer was like going, oh, okay, we've got to save everything, and it was having a little hiccup moment. Yeah, and then people were like, why is your screen flashing like every 5 seconds? And I worked out it's because that's how often I save.
Yeah, that's why I don't save. It's exactly that reason.
Cheeky saying, I feel like this would be a cool challenge for the Discord server.
Yeah, I think it would be. Seeing what weird patterns we can use. Or maybe I restrict everyone to a really hard pattern. Make it a real challenge. Use my face as the pattern.
What's the craziest thing you have used as a pattern before? Other than a kettle?
I think this is the craziest one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think apart from this, I found some really cool looking. They're not really pine cones, but like there were this. I don't have the image. It's like it sort of looks like a pine cone, but it looks like a crow face coming out of each little hole in the pine cone, and I thought that was really cool. It had like black and yellow, but like bits of blue in it. So I used that. But most of the time, I don't really use it for abstraction. I sort of cheat and use it for like bushes and all that. So I get like a photo of a bush. I create the pattern. And then I use like a brush that has the shape of a bush, and then I just get some really quick environment stuff down. I can use it for trees as well. Just depends what brush I use on top of that pattern. And it makes the whole process so much faster and easier instead of trying to draw like every individual leaf in a bush or a tree.
Yasunari saying, it's the first time I've seen a digital painter working like this. I'm impressed and amazed. I agree.
Yeah, I try to keep things pretty fresh and like take a new technique and see what I can make out of it.
Johanna's asking, this technique is reminding me a lot of Ross Draw's work. Are you familiar with them? I think that's the person from Instagram.
Yeah, so Ross Draws does something similar. YouTube? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, YouTube, that's right.
So he takes photos and he manipulates them. Yeah, so that like he changed proportions on portraits and faces so they're more stylized. But it's a good way to start off with a base. Actually, he does some other... He doesn't use like the pattern brush, but he does take photos that he likes with nice palettes, and then he paints on top of them and creates different things out of it. So like a green salad would become a green character, something like that.
Right. Question from Nick, how do you keep the colors from not being muddy when using stamp and mixer brush? It looks amazing.
I might have missed that Was that a question? Something about the mixer brush and keeping colors.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, how do you keep the colors from not being muddy when using stamp and mixer brush?
Ah, okay. I think I chose a pretty vibrant photo to begin with, and then so that really helps out. I think keeping things from being muddy with the mixer brush it's pretty hit or miss. Um, when I find it's getting too muddy, I do go back to my normal brush and try to manually like make it more vibrant instead of relying on that mixer brush. So you have to sort of switch between pretty often, and you'll see in my process I do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the way I do it.
Cool. Cheeky's asking, how long did it take to make this illustration?
This one ended up being an hour and a half.
Cool. That's good timing. So that's how long we have.
Yeah. Not planned at all.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention I think my internet's a little bit choppy again. If I'm sort of lagging behind or not answering a question properly, I apologize.
Oh yeah, no, that's all good. I realized myself. I think there's like a couple of seconds delay between us that we had originally. Then I thought we fixed it, but yeah, it doesn't seem that way. But yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a delay between you and I. But I don't think it's really going to pop out too much on stream, except that it probably looks like you're thinking very carefully about answering my questions, which you certainly don't have
to. I'm like, it might be me thinking, but it's actually me trying to listen very hard because your voice got a little bit robotic for me, so I'm like trying to make out what you're trying to say. But yeah, I'm kind of like getting it still, I think. But yeah, in this part of the process, it's not really too much else that I'm doing apart from rendering. It's really, like I said earlier, building up the form of everything. So it makes sense. I'm starting to place like cast shadows down so that you can see form starting to pop out. You can see the edge of like his head is also getting a bit more vibrant, a bit of a rim light hitting that. And I'm switching between just my mixer brush and my regular brushes to achieve that. And a lot of it is relying on that reference I have of that tiger. So that one is giving me a lot of information about my light source, where things should be lit, the anatomy of the jaw. I think that's something I wasn't familiar with for creatures. So yeah, again, definitely pick up references to use, and yeah, don't make it too difficult for yourself and try to imagine everything from your mind.
Yeah, I just noticed it made quite a big difference when you just then went in and shaped the jaw and brought the jaw out a lot longer. Suddenly it started looking much more dragon-like and much less like lion or tiger, like cat-like.
Yeah.
So I'll just remind chat, you can ask questions as we're going along. So we're not doing a Q&A break or anything like that. So feel free to ask questions. And then I'll ask Jeff in my robotic voice. Or if you can see chat as well, you can answer the questions too. So that might be a good solution for us today, just in case you can't hear me.
I can hear you pretty good now. In fact, I can hear you, but then I can't see chat suddenly, which is really weird. So I'm gonna refresh real quick.
Weird.
Yeah, like you're asking me about how my work has been. I think this is my biggest struggle with the internet. If you're like in Discord or in my regular streams, I'm always complaining about it.
Yeah, that must be hard with what you're doing. Like
okay, here we go.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about the work. It's all good.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. It's not Luckily, most of the stuff isn't like streamed or anything. If I had to stream all my work, that'd be hell. But all I have to do really is just send emails, which is okay. It's manageable. But I wish I could be more. Um, I could be like more interactive. Like I'd be streaming a lot more if I had better internet. I'm very restricted to my certain times. And then like I also have like classes that run, and the internet really affects that sometimes. Even just downloading the files they send me takes me a while at night. Oh, here's a pretty good thing. I'm doing something pretty interesting. So I'm using that mixer brush to create a pattern and texture on the horn. So I'm sort of like stamping it and like making shorter brush strokes, and that's giving me a texture that is different from the rest of the creature and feels like a different material now. And I sort of just leave that there for a while. Don't really do anything too special with it, and just light it in the future. What was the paint called again? So the first brush I used was called the pattern brush. That can be found in the pattern stamp tool. I think it's the secondary one. And you create your own patterns from that. Afterwards, I used a lot of mixer brush, and mixer brush paired with a chalk brush on top of it. So it gets me a square look. And then aside from that, it's pretty much just, I think it's circle brushes and some more standard sort of paint brushes that you see that has a little bit of texture. Pieces. Not really. I think in this one I was studying the artist that I shared earlier, Juho, and I made sure I checked what sort of ranges he used in his paintings, and his quite different from my standard range. I think I tend to use the full range because of the stylization I do for my paintings. His ones were quite muted, so anything too vibrant I push more towards like this desaturated side. And I don't ever really get too vibrant. I don't ever go towards the top right corner of like my color picker. Yeah, I think the value ranges I used does change pretty drastically depending on the style I'm doing. If it's something grayscale, I think it is more muted as well towards the darker spectrum. And then anything stylized, it gets that full range like I was talking about, the full blacks. Anywhere that's like super highlighty, I like go full white, and there's full saturations in places.
Yeah, cool. We were talking a lot about Discord before, and I mentioned just before we went live that I was going to ask you about this because we were actually thinking about creating a Discord for Adobe Live. I think I mentioned it to a couple of people in chat before. But what's like, I guess, as someone who's created like this community, like you have this like amazing community. I know some of the Jeffs, some of the people there are in chat here, and welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Like, what's like the value to you for like that community, like living in that online space together in Discord?
I think it's great to have very like-minded people to work with and just hang out with daily. If you're in my Discord, then you'll see like I'm normally online most of the time in voice chat. There's people to talk to, and it sort of helps you stay focused because you're seeing how other people are working hard along with you, and growing together is really encouraging for both yourself and like everyone else. It's good to have a place where you can share your art as well and see what other people think, get feedback very quickly, like because it's worldwide, right? It's not like a live community, so there's always going to be someone online on the other side of the world, no matter what time you post. And I think the other part of the community that's really great is you could push each other a lot more with things like I hold things like challenges from time to time. Sometimes they're more difficult, sometimes they're more fun, but it keeps it fresh. Like I really lacked that in my very early stages of learning art, and I think I really missed that opportunity. So I wanted to create a community so that people don't have to feel the way I felt, and it was like a little bit lonely.
Yeah.
And definitely like if Adobe creates that for the streams as well, I think that's useful, because then it's easy for people to find, other photographers or other illustrators like me as well.
Yeah.
And get that feedback, make friends, maybe even like for me, like I actually met people from my Discord in real life as well, and you actually create real friends, real connections that way.
Yeah, cool. There was a question about the work. Dickie was asking, could you see this method as something you would use in future client work? That's a great question.
I think client work needs a little bit more control, and this technique's a little bit risky. It does depend if it's something more illustrative, or if the client comes to me because of these certain pieces, then yeah, that's pretty easy to use. But I think I'd use a more controlled technique for client work instead. And this is very much like me indulging in things I could try out and being a bit more risky in my personal work.
Yeah, cool. I don't know if we tackled this question, but the question was, do you work professionally in which sector? Is it video games, film, or others? We've spoken about it before, but yeah, for those who might not be familiar with like full-time stuff.
So full-time work is mainly revolving around video games. I mainly do a lot of character concepts for games. I also do some illustrations for publishing, so book covers and board games. I think that's mainly it. I haven't really taken any like private commissions or anything these days. It's really focused on the gaming industry. And yeah, if there's anything you want to ask about that industry, or like how you want to get into it, or how I got into it, feel free to ask.
Yeah, we'd love to hear how you got into it. Let's start with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a pretty competitive industry, and a lot of people go into it thinking like, they play video games, they have a passion for games, and then they sort of try to relate that to something they could do, which most of the time ends up being like art, because art is something that seems more accessible than like coding or game design or anything else. For me, I think I was on the opposite side. I enjoyed art very early on, and games came for me a little bit later, and I didn't make that relationship between like games had people creating art. Games had people that were creating artwork for the games to become something like beautiful and visual. So like I didn't know until I was like around 23, and I found that like, I have this useful skill that would be useful for this industry. And that's when I started to put a lot more time and effort into learning what is required for concept art. And I actually wrote like, and someone asked me about this on Discord recently, and I spoke about this, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. I set myself goals really early on, so I knew like I didn't want to spend too long trying to get this job. It was a bit of a dream at that time, and I was kind of unprepared, I feel. So I set myself a more realistic goal of 2 years to get my first job in the industry. And the 2 years that I came up with that number from a few things. It is a bit random, but I think there is some control to that thinking. I was thinking about my current skill level, what the industry is looking for and how many jobs there are at the moment in Australia, how fast I'm improving at my current rate, and how much time I have to give myself every day and dedicate it to painting and learning the art. So those are the factors that I thought about when I started. And I did have like a pretty okay foundation already, since I did draw since I was small. But a lot of the painting side of it, like I didn't really know much about lighting and doing forms and all that. So I knew that, and that's why I gave myself a little bit longer, 2 years. The first job I landed 2 years later, it actually did happen to be like, I think I was like 1 month. It was 1 month after the 2 years that I got the job.
Right.
I think this is pretty important to talk about. I was actually rejected for my first job. I got to the interview stage. I felt like I was pretty confident. If I got to the interview, then it's really just about my personality and work ethic. And if I could talk about that in the interview, then that's all I really need to do. They already like my work. But in the end, it turns out the 2D role I was applying for, they wanted some 3D knowledge as well. So that's where I got rejected. But it's times like those where like I feel like, you can't really change what people want from you, but you can definitely change what you can provide. So I spent like 2 to 3 days learning Maya and ZBrush together. I almost didn't sleep, I think, and I created a model, and 2 models actually. I made like a sculpt, and I made a low poly weapon. So it showed that I had the initiative to learn and like push myself to do better. Right. And I think that's the kind of drive you need to show if you want to land that first industry job. You have to show you're something different, whether it's in your skill, in your portfolio, or if it's like me, like the dedication to learn and show that you would work harder than the other people that are applying.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the biggest obstacle was during that process? Like, was it when you were halfway and you're like, I'm halfway now, I got to do, like, was it sticking to it, or was it, I mean, you mentioned that, you went for a job that you didn't get, like, what do you think the hardest part of that is?
I think the hardest part is that self-doubt. I think especially, I mentioned how I didn't have that community. So I didn't know how well I was improving, and if what I perceived as improvement was actually just not really any improvement at all. I didn't have anyone to help tell me. And, there's the constant rejections as well. Like, you apply for a lot of jobs, or like you try to go for some smaller freelance jobs, you still get rejected. It's really tough to stay strong and push through that and believe that you are improving and on a good path. I think the way I overcame it was I started to disconnect myself from the paintings I created and saw everything more as mileage. So as long as I keep creating new paintings and keep adding something new to it, or like try a different technique, or focus more on a different fundamental, then I'd be improving myself. And that goes for a lot of things, right? It's not only painting. The more time you spend practicing, you'll improve. So yeah, I think that was probably the hardest thing, staying not really motivated. I think staying positive about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. There was another question kind of around this sort of theme. Chiki was asking, what's it like working with a company for the first time?
That was very exciting. So that's when I started to get open to, I realized like how important community is, because I felt it was really, really cool to see what the other 2D artists were doing and seeing their different techniques. And we talk about stuff like that. It was really cool seeing the other side, which is like 3D art, and how they turn my stuff into 3D models. I was also creating 3D models as well, but this other guy was like insane. He was really good at creating sculpts in ZBrush, which is something I couldn't really do. And I think just making friends that were similar in interest to me. Like I still have friends from my first studio that I play Smash Bros with still. to this day, and that was like 4 years ago. Um, I think it was weird learning some other things as well in a studio where you can't just be, painting things and then handing it to your art director and be like, all right, you guys handle it. You have to learn to like integrate the models or anything you created into the game. So you have to prepare it properly, make sure it's usable for the programmers. And there's a lot of other stuff you have to learn, like the project management side of it. You'd have to keep on top of it. You have to put your hours down for how long you spend for each part of like the process. And also even just like the other thing that I said, which is like submitting your work into the game is very annoying sometimes. You run into all these issues that you don't understand as an artist. You just kind of want to paint, but like you have to deal with these other things.
Yeah.
So that part is tough but useful. I think if you want to get into the higher roles, like being an art director, you have to really understand this whole process and the whole pipeline. But generally, it is a very positive experience. I think seeing everyone work together and seeing all sides of a game being developed and being so close to a team and spending 8 hours a day with everyone, creating something that you're all passionate about is something very special that sometimes I miss when I'm a freelancer.
That's interesting. You should mention that because there was a question. What are your thoughts about working in-house versus freelancing? So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
In the end, I think I prefer freelancing because I think for me personally, I'm okay living a little bit more on the edge, being a bit risky, a bit of a bad boy over here. I like to have a lot of different projects I can jump on. The thing with being in a studio is you're going to be stuck on one project for at least 1 year. It can go for like 2 years. AAA games go for years and years, like 5 years.
Yeah.
So being able to, even if I'm stuck on one project as a freelancer, I can distribute my time in a way that I'm working on something else while I work on this other longer project. And I get to do other things like run my community the way I want and dedicate more time to it. I can, chat to people online and do my work at the same time. In-house, I think I already mentioned a lot of the pros to it. Like you meet people that you really wouldn't get to meet. You have that whole team that's backing you up. Whereas over here, it's just me and my dog. There's no one else to really talk to. And I think that's probably why I'm on Discord a lot of the time.
Is your dog a corgi?
Yeah.
Like your icon is a lot of the time?
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen your
he's a
dog on the
corgi.
stream before?
He's outside. He gets a bit vocal sometimes.
Right.
So he's just chilling in the living room, sleeping.
Okay. Well, he's welcome to come on stream at any point. Maybe.
He used to be in my
towards the end.
streams quite a lot, actually.
Was he?
Sorry, was there a question? I think I missed that. It got a bit choppy again.
Okay. We'll move on from the dog question. So there's a great question from Johanna. Seeing as the studio wanted you to be capable in 2D as well as 3D, what are your thoughts about being a specialist versus a generalist?
I think these days it's getting tougher and tougher. Generalist roles are starting to disappear in the bigger studios. So if you're working indie or something, or in the smaller studios like we have in Australia, generalists are pretty useful, but I think it's always better to be more specialized. And that's what the industry is asking for these days. And specialized in a sense that like, you can't just be like, I want to be a concept artist. That's already too general these days. You have to be like, I want to be a character concept artist specializing in realistic styled concept art for sci-fi. That's how specific it's getting these days.
Right, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
If you want to be, one of the tops, right? And if you want to work in studios like Riot or Blizzard, you have to know what you want. And also, I think it's it's more useful. Move on. You can really focus on one thing and really get good at it. And also, I think the pay is higher for someone specialized. It doesn't even have to be specialized in a way like I mentioned just then. If you have a style that's very unique that no one else has, that only you can create, then demand for you is a lot higher, and that's what pushes your hourly rate up.
Yeah. Another great question from Cheeky. Smashing the questions, it's so good. How do you stay focused on work at home as a freelancer? Such a hard thing, I think, for people to do. And I think, the current situation, like a lot of people were kind of forced to work from home, and they really, maybe they're figuring it out now. It's been 8 weeks, 12 weeks, depending on where you are and what's going on in your situation. But it is definitely one of those really hard things to get used to is staying focused on work. So yeah, how do you do it?
Yeah. For me, I think it's sort of, my trick is like waking up early, and that sets me in like it sets a good foundation for my day already. I think it's the first productive thing I've done, and I don't want to ruin it already if I've woken up early. So I try to keep my schedule similar to what I had when I was working in a full-time job. I want to wake up at least before 9, and be ready to work by 9 o'clock. To be honest, chatting to people on Discord is actually more effective for me to stay productive, because my mind isn't getting distracted by other random things like YouTube videos, and I can work and talk at the same time. And somehow that keeps me more focused than if I was to work alone. Other things that really help me is writing down everything I need to do. So you don't just sort of sit there and like zone out sometimes, because there's that list that's like that you need to tick off.
Right.
And like if you sort of break it up into different days, like maybe in the morning I want to do this client's work, and then in the afternoon I work on this client's work, then that helps. Or like Monday to Wednesday I'm working on something, and then Thursday to Saturday it's something else. I think that is helpful as well. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else. I think being focused is less about these tactics and more about just that dedication and the mental fortitude.
Yeah, like your attitude towards it. Like people often talk about techniques and or apps, or people write lists, or people use spreadsheets, or people whatever. But I think often the times it's probably just as long as you're doing something and it works for you, that's like probably better than a large percentage of the people out there. Like you're already ahead, no matter what your method is. So Jacob asks, how often do you switch projects throughout the day as to not get burnt out on a single one?
What I used to do something like this. Like I'd wake up, I'd like maybe, and this was when I was working alone, so I wasn't talking to people yet. And it's even harder to say focused, as I mentioned. So what I did was I'd start off at like 9 o'clock, I'd watch some videos and get inspired by what's around me, like check out ArtStation, see what the latest projects are that are trending. And that gives me new inspiration, new things I want to save in Pinterest boards and all that. And then I'd spend like an hour or 2 hours on some personal work. So that already is like a good start to keep my day fresh. And then from like after lunch onwards, I'd be working on either one project for clients or 2 projects. And I think that the way that day is broken up is not too overwhelming. You're spending less time on your client work, but I think it's more efficient efficient time and a more productive time compared to saying 9 to 5 and just sort of going in and out of that work.
That's interesting. Do you find you more like what are your golden hours? Are they in the morning or are they in the afternoon? Like the best that you got to work on the hardest thing, or that you work to your best amount?
I work best in the morning, like just when I wake up, but I give that time to more personal work these days, or learning, which is a little bit unfair to the clients, but I still work well throughout the rest of the day. I think it's just something I've built up over the 5 years that I've been working professionally. And I think before, when I was working full-time and still took some freelance work, I'd come home after work and still do freelance at night, even when I'm like the least effective, not effective, the least productive, and it still worked out. So I think it was me training my ability to stay focused during those times.
Yeah, cool. It's been a lot of chatter about your corgi, just to take it like back to that.
Yeah.
So what's your corgi's name?
His name's Bobo.
Bobo.
I might have some photos, actually. Let me see if there's anything I can share.
That's what Cheeky was saying at the very start of the stream. Where's Bobo? I thought it was like a little Jeff nickname from your Discord.
That's a very weird nickname for me. Maybe I can grab him later if you guys want me to go grab him.
I think you.
I can do that near the end.
I think you're gonna have to grab him at some point. Yeah, I think so. Maybe at the end. All right, you guys, you stick around and you get Bobo Cam. Okay. That would be cool.
Yep, I have to wait till the very end. Have to smash like, and then I'll grab Bobo.
Smash like, smash subscribe. You got to follow Jeff. You got to follow me, and you have to, yeah. You know, you can do what you want. Just stick around.
Buy my merch.
Buy my merch. All the things. Corgi Cam coming at you. We should talk a little bit more about what is happening in the work, because we do get carried away, largely my fault. So
yeah, we do.
Maybe you can, because we've done quite a few steps here in a very short amount of time. So you're doing a lot of brush strokes before, like adding a lot of detail, adding a lot of shadow, and then but now you've kind of jumped in to levels, playing with the levels at the moment. Is that what's happening? Oh, we're curves.
My one hasn't caught up to that, but I think I can kind of guess what you're talking about. Yeah, I do play around with the levels a little bit. I think later I'll pick up curves, which is even more useful, because I noticed my piece was lacking. Okay, so we'll work on curves. So the creature's sort of lacking temperatures in their shadow and light, and I wanted to change that up. I think a general rule for art, or not a rule, like a suggestion to help your colors feel more vibrant, is to separate your shadow and light temperatures. So if you go with cool shadows that are leaning more towards blues, purples, greens, those kind of cool colors, then you want to go with something more warm in your light. So reds, oranges, yellows, right? And in this case, I went with the opposite. I went with cool lights and warmer shadows. And curves are a great way of doing that, because you can control what part of your image you want to add more certain hues into. So if you select like the blue selection up top, you can pull it up towards the left side of it, which is the darker values, and you can make it more cooler shadowed. And conversely, you can go to the red and bump the red in the shadows and bring out more warmth in your shadows. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. And it's a really good tool to use like after you've already like made a lot of adjustments and there are like maybe a lot of layers. Then you just chuck one of those curve adjustment layers on top and edit everything together and make it more cohesive.
Cool. Interesting question from
Aside
Nick.
from that, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I can ask at any stage. So if you were talking something about the work, we can do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just adding some little extra details and attention. So on that note, I think that's something pretty good to talk about as well. It's controlling the viewer's eyes for where you want them to be looking. And I've sort of touched on this on other streams as well and other Adobe Live sessions. It's how sharp and crisp and detailed you want to make certain places and leave other places sort of dirty and loose. And by doing that, you're creating more attention in those detailed areas because of the contrast. And it works both ways, right? If everything is too loose, including the places that are meant to be more detailed, then we have nowhere to focus on. But if everything is over detailed and over sharp, then we also don't have anywhere to focus on because everything is trying to draw your attention. So definitely have that contrast between where you want most of your details, your sharper edges, and where you want less detail with your more blurry lines and softer edges.
Cool. There's been some great questions today, guys. Keep them coming. We've got about 30 minutes left, a little bit less than that. Time is slightly off. We've got a little bit less time than that, I think. So do keep your questions coming. By the way, I haven't even mentioned it. If you're watching on YouTube, jump over to behance.net/live. That's the chat that we're in. Join us. We're asking all sorts of questions. We're going to see a corgi by the end, which is very exciting. Have you ever manipulated, like taken a photo of Bobo as a reference and manipulated Bobo to create a mythical creature? And if you haven't, why not?
Okay, so I haven't, and that's been an idea of mine for a while. I've painted Bobo on separate occasions, but not from like a photo base.
Right.
The reason why is because I think his proportions are too funny. I can't do anything with it. I can push and pull it, but it's just, you don't see any form on him either. He's just this round ball of fluff. So right. I don't get any like muscle anatomy out of him. He's just got like a derpy looking face as well. He's a hard model to work with, and he doesn't sit still. He barks at the camera if I like try to point the phone at him. He gets mad.
Okay.
So definitely not the model I'd want to work with.
Wow. So that's a lot of really good reasons. Oscar in chat is saying, I can definitely see this creature as a new Pokemon in a live action Pokemon. Yeah, really cool. It's true.
Cool. Thanks, Oscar. The goal for this one, I was like a little bit lost as well. I didn't know if I wanted to go a little bit more closer to realistic or more stylized, and it sort of ended between. Some of the details you see is like kind of chunky and stylized looking, but then some of the proportions feel more realistic. And I think it ended up with there's a kind of a nice appeal to that as well. So another happy accident, definitely not planned, which is like a lot of my work. Solutions to improve Bobo's modeling potential: hose him down, get him soaking wet, shave him. You're horrible.
Oh man.
That is true though. When I wash Bobo, he gets very, very still, and he looks very confused. And it's kind of funny seeing how thin he is actually under all that fluff. He still has a bit of a belly, but he's got like nice chunky looking hind legs. A lot of muscle definition there.
Yasunari says this animal reminds me a little of Red 8 in Final Fantasy. I never played Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it is kind of like a Final Fantasy creature, I think, and that is that kind of style between realism and stylized. So maybe that's why. Some of the colors as well, I think I chose feels very Final Fantasy. The blue, I think. Well, actually, I didn't pick those colors, did I? It was given to me by the beautiful kettle photo.
I think that's something important to kind of bring out, because there's been quite a few new people to the stream since we begun. But yeah, this was originally a pattern that was turned into a brush or used as a brush, that was just a photo of a kettle from your kitchen.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the part that was probably the more intentional in this piece, was really just using that red from that kettle to be my base palette for the color. Everything else feels like it sort of went a different direction, at least a little bit. Generally, the pose and everything does feel closer to what I had planned. But line is something I sort of figured out as I went.
Another practical question: what's the best ways of avoiding carpal tunnel? Man, you gotta take breaks.
I don't ever really get that. I think maybe I have the genes for painting. I don't know. I don't really worry too much about stretching either. I just stretch every now and then. It might also be that I think maybe this is something that's not spoken about enough, and maybe it does relate to this. It's being more conscious of your brushstrokes, and it's useful from a technique point of view because every brushstroke does count, right? And if you're making like a lot of random brushstrokes, you're moving your wrist quite a lot. Maybe that's how you get carpal tunnel. I don't know, but I definitely don't feel like I'm straining my wrist that much when I'm painting, and it could be because of that consciousness of like the actions I'm doing, and limiting how much I move as I paint, and being more conscious of everything.
You use a stylus of some kind, don't you? I think you use a Wacom, like a pen.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think that helps. Like, I knew some people that had got carpal tunnel, but they were using a mouse. This is like in the advertising days where like people were working like 11 to 12-hour days using like really non-ergonomic like mouse, like kind of doing like just this kind of action like all the time. I think we've come a long way in terms of what we can use, and I think using a stylus is a big step forward. I used to switch between stylus at work and a mouse at home to try to break up the action. Not everyone can do that, but that's something that I was doing. I was using a Wacom just to navigate. I wasn't even painting or drawing or creating. I was just using it at work to break things up. So that's something you could try out there if you're worried about that.
Definitely. It'd be hard to paint with a mouse though, but
yeah. I don't mean you. But if you got to spend an hour each day doing emails or like accounting or something, then maybe that's a time you can switch to the trackpad or switch to a mouse or something like that.
Maybe that does help me as well, because I am like switching between tabs a lot with my mouse. I go back to my mouse and like move around and navigate, and then only when I'm painting do I pick up the stylus.
I think so. I think it helps. It's a very different action. Menso was on the YouTube feed and you're over here. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I never know if anybody actually comes over when I say that, so I'm glad to hear. Good to see you. And if you got any questions, make sure you jump in. We don't have long. We got 20 minutes, and we need to allow for corgi time. Chelsea is asking, do you get art block, Jeff? Do you get art block sometimes?
Art blocks don't really happen for me. I think the way I work helps with that a lot. Because imagine me going into stream, and if you set like a schedule, then whether you have an art block or not, you still have to do something. And the way I work that I think helps a lot with avoiding art blocks is I let a lot of the marks I place down inspire me. And I think a lot of, from the sounds of it, because I don't go through it myself, but from the sounds of it, art block just doesn't really, it doesn't allow you to paint right, or like you just avoid painting in general. You don't sit down at the computer. But if you open up Photoshop, open up a new canvas, start to place down some marks, get a little bit abstract with either your line or like some silhouettes, it can inspire you pretty quickly. Some other suggestions I can give to stay inspired is doing that daily research that I'm talking about, like spending 30 minutes in the morning just to look through the websites you like to use. Like I use ArtStation a lot to see what's happening on the illustration side, and being inspired by something I want to try, whether it's a theme, like a character theme, it's a technique I see, which is what inspired this piece, very much technique based, or if I watch videos as well, if I see a process, a speed paint, and they try something and I'm like, how did they do that? Or like, I really like what they painted. I make that my topic for the day or the week. And that's been keeping me going without running into sort of any type of art blocks.
Cool. Great answer. It's really good to hear. Yeah, because I do think that that's like sometimes like the idea of like staring at a blank canvas or thinking, well, what can I create? Or looking at other people's feeds. Like I think that's a social media thing that we all live with, like looking at all this amazing stuff that everyone's creating. It's like, well, what could I do? And then I think, yeah, developing a bit of a block where you end up not doing anything because you're trying to find like the perfect answer or something.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why it's pretty nice to start getting the habit of archiving work that you like, or photos or anything that you find inspiring, into things like a Pinterest board. Because whenever I'm feeling a little bit less inspired, I just open that up and look through all the different boards I have, maybe certain topics that I want to look at. So if I want to create some assassin type of character, I open my assassin Pinterest board and see if there's anything that's in there that I haven't explored yet, or leads to a new idea that I might want to try.
Yeah, cool. There was a question in chat, but I'm not sure what it means, so maybe you know. But it says, love your style. Tell me your algorithm, please. I just don't know what algorithm is, so I don't know how you want to interpret that.
My algorithm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either.
Yeah, maybe you could rephrase the question, and then we'll see if we can figure it out.
There's not too much else to really discuss in the painting itself. I think it's very much what I was talking about before, bringing details into certain places. So I'm thinking like to that next level. A lot of it, so the beginning was like the silhouette, right? And then I started to introduce form and lighting. From here, I'm thinking more about texture. So what is the feel of this material of this creature? So I'm trying to go in there and show little tinier texture information. If it's something hard edged, I want to make sure it feels hard edged, and I use a harder brush to do that, or like I use finer details to represent that hardness. And that's useful to contrast with like the kind of hairy bit under the neck, right? That's very soft, and the brush I used was very soft as well. So when you contrast those two, the hardness of the face feels a lot more solid.
Great. Yeah, so we have some clarification on the question. So as in the necessary components when speed painting. So I don't think you're using anything particular, like no sort of like crazy plugins or anything like that. Like, I mean, you use a stylus. I suppose that's a necessary component because you need the pressure sensitivity. Is that, maybe you can pick it up from there?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, for like these kind of speed paintings, I don't do anything too crazy like using photo bashing or anything like that. It's very much just the fundamental tools that Photoshop provides that feels somewhat closer towards traditional painting. So working with one layer, as you said, having that transfer. Actually, I don't think I've. Oh no, I do have transfer. I have transfer on. I don't even use like the shape dynamics on the brush most of the time. It's just one straight shape, like a real brush as well, and nothing else too fancy. I don't adjust my opacity or flow. I keep that solid so I have more control over that brush with my pen pressure. I try to limit the number of brushes I use for the bulk of the rendering. The only places I get abstract is probably in the background a little bit. If I want to add some different textures, I just run through. I don't even like have specific ones in mind. I just run through whatever brushes feel like they have a nice grit to it that I just place in the background.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Scenario was saying they
I'm trying to load the comments page. It's not loading.
Oh, the comments isn't loading. Oh, really? Use the Apple Lisa. Wow, that goes
isn't.
back. On Paint software. Now you have a Wacom Cintiq 24 HD Touch, and you would not go back. That's a very nice nice device to create on for sure.
Yeah.
What URL?
My internet's acting up a little bit. If there was a question there, I might have missed it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. No, all good.
Yeah.
No question. Just having a chat.
It's good you can hear me though. That's handy. I can like talk more about the process still, and
yeah, we can hear you totally. We can hear you totally fine.
That's so strange. My video is frozen, and then I can't even load a comments section, which is terrible. Yeah, if there is anything else I can talk about for the process, it would be really just refining any of those happy accident brush strokes that I got from the mixer brush early on. Like a lot in the hair and stuff gives me nice flow, and that's what people sort of overlook. Like you have this idea that you have a brush stroke that you want to make, and you try to control the stroke too much. But a lot of the times, your brush stroke can give you a lot of texture information. It has a nice flow to it that you can actually pick out and create details out of brush strokes. So, for example, the area in the hair, right? There's a lot of flow to it. So I could reinforce some of the flow that the brush created by adding extra values on top. Like I could highlight certain parts of it and make that feel less like a brush stroke and more like detail. If that sort of makes sense. It's kind of abstract, that thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Let me see if I can load this.
And just before we finish, for those who have just joined us, I want to skip back to the beginning and show the creation of the brush again, because I think it's really unique and a really cool thing, and it's something that we could all even try like right now. Love to find a shiny colored object.
Yeah.
You mentioned before,
and if you had a Discord, we could share all the results.
Yeah. Okay, there's another reason for it. All right, we're going to make a Discord. This is going to happen. So you were talking about, I think you said, do I have transparency on? Was that just transparency in layers or something, or is that a third-party app or something like that? Am I getting the word right?
You mean how the creature's separate from the background? Is that what you mean?
I thought you might have been talking about like a third-party app or something, but maybe I'm mistaken. But when we're talking about the components, like the necessary components when speed painting, and you said, I don't know if I have transparency on or off or something, or maybe I got the word wrong. I don't know. Ignore me if that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't think I remember mentioning transparency.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh, transfer.
Oh, transfer.
Transfer
That's it.
is
That's it. Yeah.
what I mentioned.
Yes.
Transfer is when I apply more pressure, then I get more. Like if say I selected a black on my brush and I press super hard, it'll give me solid black. If I transfer on, if I press lightly, then it can become a gray. With shape dynamic, if I press lightly, it'll taper the brush as well and turn it smaller. But I normally have shape dynamic off, so I mainly just use transfer on my brush.
Cool. Okay, cool. Good to know. Cool. So we've got timers.
This is pretty close to the end of the
Yeah, I think it is
painting
getting
as well,
pretty close. Yeah. Yeah, Mensa is saying in chat you would love Adobe Fresco. Have you given Adobe Fresco a try? With the watercolors and stuff like that? You may have missed me, or you don't answer the question.
Damn it.
I must have missed you for a second.
I think I missed that one.
Yeah, it's all good. I was just if you can hear me, this one. Have you tried Adobe Fresco before, like on the iPad?
Oh man, it's really robot-y right now.
Sorry.
I don't know what's
That's
happening.
Okay. It's all good.
Let me try load the page again and see if I can see the question myself.
Cool. Yeah, it is Rosella time.
Try that.
So funny. I can never tell if you guys can actually hear anything, but yeah, the Rosellas are out. They want to say hello. It's a nice day here in Sydney, so they're hanging out. So the Rosellas come and land above my head here. Now for Bobo the doggo. Yeah, so Jeff, hopefully you can hear me through. We've got about 7 minutes left until
a little bit.
A hard cutoff. Can we see your dog? We want to see Bobo.
The way you asked that is so funny. Yeah, I'll go grab him now.
I did ask that in a really weird way. I was trying to be slow.
I can't load the comment section.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
Show me
is
your
that why?
dog.
Yeah, it sounded kind of like it's like you were a little embarrassed or something. It's like, can we see Bobo? But yeah, I'll go grab him now.
All right, let's do it.
1 second.
All right, guys, get ready for Corgi Cam. This is what we've been waiting for. Thanks for hanging out with us today, everybody. We've had 2 great live streams. We've had a great time hanging out with all of you. The Rosellas are out. It's Friday afternoon here in Sydney. It's very exciting. Bobo, Bobo, Bobo.
Here he comes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Right, let me get my earphone on. I might chuck him on the bed in a second.
Let's make, all right, we're going to pause this real quick. Let's bring this up. There's Bobo. Hey, buddy.
Here he is. He's a big boy. He's a big corgi.
Big boy.
There you go. Big boy. Say hi, Bo.
Yes. Hey, buddy.
His
Nice.
little feet.
Look at his little feet.
He was sleeping just then, so he's really relaxed.
Right. He's chilling out. Yes, Bobo Cam.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
This is what the people want.
He's really big, actually.
Yeah.
In the camera, he looks gigantic.
Big,
Yeah, I'll
soft,
put him on the bed. He can,
fluffy
roam around a
cloud.
bit. There you go.
Oh, thanks, Bobo. Awesome.
Bobo, come on, come here. Show them a trick. Shake, Bo. There you go.
Yeah.
Good boy. I try to
good.
train him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, sleepy Bobo. Oh, thank you for that. That's awesome.
No problem. I think everyone misses Bobo a little bit.
Yeah.
He used to be on the Twitch streams quite a lot because I used to have him on the bed behind me. But these days, I don't want him to sort of roam around everywhere. We've been doing some more training, so he's been staying in the living room a bit more.
Right. Well, actually, we've only got a few minutes. We've only got a few minutes left. So I'm just going to skip through to the end here.
Yeah.
Of the artwork, which we can see there. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Right.
So I've just got a still of the final artwork if we're having connection issues again. So yeah, it's just the final artwork up there that we're seeing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I did add something else. I did like a hue saturation slide, and then like I turned it off with masking, and I revealed a bit of that saturation in other areas. So I introduced like a yellow. That's like a style I've been exploring these days as well. Let me move over so you can see his head. I think he's the main character these days.
Yeah.
When he's in stream, I don't feel important anymore.
We need to use just Bobo's head in the next promo piece that we do in the YouTube tile. It'll just be Bobo.
Yeah, it's not even me.
It'll be Bobo.
It's a joke that Bobo's the one doing the paintings and I'm just the face.
All right. That's awesome. I promised that I would very quickly just show the beginning again. So I'm just bringing this up, everyone, just for anyone that missed it, because I know there's a lot of new people here since we began. And so this is actually using the kettle and then just basically using this to create a pattern and using that as a brush. And that was the basis of the entire artwork. And you get this effect that you're seeing here. You can follow those simple steps at home and do it yourself if you like. It's a very cool effect, very easy to do, but obviously it helps if you're extremely talented like Jeff, but we can also all try it out ourselves to get an idea of the technique.
Yeah. I'd love to see everyone's work as well, so if you get that Discord running, let me know. And
yeah, we will.
We'll see how everyone goes.
We'll invite you in, and yeah, thank you to you, thank you to Bobo. We're out in a minute, so thank you so much for joining us today on Adobe Live.
It was great to be here, and thanks to everyone for all the questions as well. It was very fun talking with everyone.
Yeah, great questions today. Thank you, chat. Wherever you are, have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful night, and stay safe out there. And we'll be back next week. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.